I gave my life over to Christ when I was 11 years old. I was invited by some friends of mine, people who I really wanted to become better friends with. They were sort of more popular than I was. They invited me to go to youth group. I was at a time in my life when, my parents were separating, my immediate family was disintegrating, and here was this new community, enthusiastically embracing me with open arms, where a lot of the social barriers that I saw in my school were a non-issue. I loved the ideals of the community, which were to not judge one another and to love one another. So, after about 3 times visiting, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I want to give my life over to Christ. I definitely believed that God existed and that Jesus was my personal Lord and Savior and all of that. But it was, shortly after converting, in this hilarious cosmic irony, that I realized that I was gay. And, this was a very conservative evangelical community that I converted into, and the biblical texts, according to the leaders of the church, were very clear on this issue, and there was no room for interpretation. Homosexuality is sinful, and God punishes people who practice that lifestyle with AIDS or with a life of loneliness and then eternal suffering after you die. I was very angry with God. I was like, I don't want anything to do with the church. I'd come out of the closet and there was no way I was going back into the closet or back into a church. I spent, most of my time in college not interested in talking about religion and hearing about religion. Even though I was a religion major, I had constructed in my mind of religion as this malevolent force in the world. I did this weekly volunteer thing through college called the Campus Kitchen at Augsburg College. It was a meal delivery service to a community center in the neighborhood where I went to school. The neighborhood has the highest population of Somalians anywhere in the world outside of Somalia. And the majority of those who attended the Brian Coyle Community Center were Muslims. I was like, I can do this service without engaging that issue at all. I don't have to talk about religion. It can be a non-factor. I'm there to deliver food, but I also sort of wanted to be a part of the lives of the people there and contribute to the community. However, anytime anything around religion came up, I sort of shut down. And one example in particular really sort of haunts me in some ways. It sticks with me. I stayed late and I was talking with this woman that came there pretty often. And we were talking about this and that, the NBA team in Minnesota and how bad it was doing. And then somehow, almost out of nowhere, she said, sometimes when I go out in public, I'm kind of afraid because, I worry about the response that my hijab is going to elicit. I have been harassed and people have shouted things at me and, I get nervous and I get scared. Almost without thinking, before I even really realized what I was saying, I was like, sometimes when I'm out in public with my boyfriend, if he tries to grab my hand, I get really afraid of, the reaction that we might get from other people. And I had no idea how she was going to react, but without missing a beat, she said, so what do you do in that moment when you're afraid, when you feel afraid? What gives you comfort? What gives you strength? For me, when I feel that way about wearing my hijab, it's my belief in Allah that gives me strength, and He's my source of strength. But what is it for you? I'm just really curious. And she was totally opening the door for us to have like a frank, honest dialogue about this. And to really sort of connect on a really personal level around things that mattered to both of us. But I instantly sort of realized what was happening, and I, got up and made up some excuse about having a paper that was due the next day, and I just sort of took off. Because I had this animosity inside me toward religion, and because it was, it was a place that I just didn't want to go, I refused to engage with that issue. And so now, in my work, I really want to try and sort of reclaim that moment and look for opportunities to increase understanding between non-religious people and religious people, between gay people and other religious people. I think the source of the problem is a lack of understanding between people who have different worldviews and different identities. And I think, if we can just increase understanding between religious people, non-religious people, gay people, Muslims, others, we will go a long way in undoing a lot of the damage that has been done to people. It's a lot easier to notice and recognize and look for the differences. I think it's harder, but ultimately a lot more productive and necessary to look for what the sort of similarities are.